Welcome to the Chronicles of a Cheating Wife channel. A new story every day. Don't forget to subscribe. This is nothing, right? It's just a glitch, some stray entries. I tell myself, staring at the remote browser history I've pulled up from the office computer. Her account. Her name on the login. The search terms. The visits. They line up in front of my eyes like a row of tombstones, marking the place where all my illusions go to die. I'm not angry, not yet. Instead, I feel this odd glacial calm. The kind that creeps in when you're about to discover something that can shift the entire axis of your world. I keep scrolling through the visited links. Hotel reviews, booking confirmations, gym membership logs that aren't ours, a local florist's website. 7 times in a single week, a brand of cologne I don't use. My first instinct is to slam the laptop shut and pretend I never saw any of it. But that's not me. Not anymore. I continue, diving deeper, methodically, as if dissecting a body, opening each link, gleaning every detail, all the while hearing my own pulse slow to a near-dead hush. Because if I let myself feel it, really feel it, I'm afraid the entire building might hear my heart tearing itself apart. When I'm done, I close the browser window and exhale. I can see, with scalpel clarity, that these scraps of data aren't random. They tell a story. Her story. Or rather, the story she's been living with another man. Hotel rendezvous. Possibly. Private gym sessions. Likely. And the florist. Roses, I imagine, or maybe lilies. Something discreet. I run a hand over the stubble on my face. Feels like I haven't shaved in days, but I know it's only been since yesterday morning. A quiet flicker of memory rises. The last time she mentioned she'd be working late. I made dinner and left her plate under tinfoil, thinking maybe she was stuck at the office. The next day, she told me she'd had a big project. I believed her. Of course I did. She's my wife. I type in the password to her email. One she's used 100 times. Never bothering to hide it. The mailbox opens so easily that part of me wonders if she wanted me to see it. Or maybe she's just sloppy. There it is, a message from him. Can't wait to see you again. That's all I need. I don't read further. Not now. I sit back, close my eyes. My mind unravels like a slow reel. Scenes, suspicions, her phone lighting up at odd hours with a quick swipe to decline the call. The smallest details, all of it. I see them with a new lens, the lens of betrayal. It's nothing, right? Is the last half-hearted thought to drift through my mind. And then, in that hush, reality sets in like a bullet to the chest. I'm in our bedroom next. Dusk has settled outside, painting the windows with a deep orange glow. She's in the shower. I listen to the water run. There's a faint smell of her expensive body wash in the air, something floral and crisp. I glance at her phone on the nightstand. It's locked, of course, and even if I had the passcode, I doubt I'd need it now. I already know enough. My heart's beating slowly, methodically. I catch a glimpse of my face in the mirror above the dresser. Calm, expressionless, almost cold. A year ago, maybe even 6 months ago, I would have confronted her on the spot, demanded answers, done the whole outraged husband number. But not now. Not after everything I've learned. Anger is too raw, too obvious, and I don't like giving obvious weapons to my enemy. Enemy. Yes, that's the word that flickers in my mind. My wife is not my ally anymore. She's something else. Someone who has rearranged our life, hammered cracks into our marriage, and not even had the decency to hide it properly. Or maybe she thinks I'm too gullible, or too trusting, or just not worth the effort. The shower stops. A minute later, she steps out in a thin bathrobe, hair wrapped in a towel. She looks at me, surprise flitting across her face, as if she expected to be alone. "You're home early," she says, her voice gentle. Too gentle. "Yeah. Show prep wrapped up ahead of schedule," I reply. I watch her eyes. For a moment, there's a flicker of something. nervousness, guilt, or maybe the memory of some conversation she had with him earlier today. She recovers quickly, as she always does, with a small, practiced smile. "That's great. Hungry?" she asks. I give a faint nod, not really caring. She thinks that's the end of it. She thinks I'm tired, that I might just want dinner and an evening in front of the TV. And maybe a year ago that's exactly how it would have played out. But inside me now, a plan is forming. Quiet, precise. It's so clean, so pure, this sense of resolve. Like a surgeon planning an operation in 3 strategic moves. I can see them clearly, how to kill trust in 3 steps. Her trust in me, his trust in her, and ultimately, their trust in each other. Because I know something about trust. Once you rip it apart, it never truly heals. I used to love her. Let that be stated plainly. There was a time my heart beat only for her laughter, her voice, the scent of her perfume. She was Liz, the woman who charmed my socks off the first time we met. We'd watch sunsets on the Santa Monica Pier and talk about our future. She believed in me, believed I'd be the next big journalist or maybe a TV host. Turned out, she wasn't that far off. She's good at spotting potential, good at marketing, at PR. That's her job, after all. People always told me, "Man, you're lucky. She's a keeper." And I'd nod proudly. We married, moved into a decent apartment in LA over time. I built up my small online channel into a bigger presence. Eventually, I launched The Cuckold Speaks, a show about men who have been cheated on, anonymously or openly, where they share their stories. At first, it was just a quirky idea. An attempt to talk about taboo topics, heartbreak, masculinity, vulnerability. But it gained traction. In a weird twist of fate, it became my livelihood, my brand. People tune in for the raw honesty. She never liked the name. "It's too in your face," she'd say. "You need something classier." But I stuck with it. The show soared in popularity, ironically thanks to her early push with the marketing. She was good at positioning it as controversial, boundary-pushing. The more eyes we got, the more advertisers I attracted. And just when I thought we were building this life together, she found something else. Someone else. My irony-laden fate, hosting a show about cheating men, while my own wife was preparing to star in my next episode. There was a night. It replays in my head now in slow motion, when I first suspected something was off. She came home at 2 a.m., disheveled, claiming an office emergency. I believed her, because she smelled like coffee, and I found half a cup in her car. She told me she had to drop a coworker off in West Hollywood. But she wore that coworker's perfume, or maybe it was her own, twisted by another man's scent. Something about it felt off. But suspicion is just that, an itch at the back of your skull. It needs proof. And I had none, so I let it go. On the surface, we remained that picture-perfect couple. I told myself it was a rough patch, or maybe she was burnt out. I went about my routines, interviewing men about their heartbreak while ignoring the red flags in my own marriage. Until a month later. That's when I came home unexpectedly and found them. She'd left a note, something about a quick grocery run. But the house was too silent, and yet I caught an odd noise from upstairs, like muffled laughter, or moaning. My heart hammered. I moved up the steps slowly, each floorboard creaking like it wanted to betray my presence. Then I heard it clearly, a man's voice, and her soft gasp. I knew I shouldn't look. I should bolt, maybe call the cops, do anything but see. But I was powerless. My feet dragged me on. Down the hall, our bedroom door was half open, letting me glimpse the outlines of moving bodies. Her hair splayed across his chest, his hands cupping her hips. She was on top of him, her back arching. I heard her whisper, "Oh God, I've missed this." I froze, hand on the doorframe. My mind told me, "Turn around." But my body ignored the command. I stood there, watching her, watching him. She rocked forward. He murmured something I couldn't make out. Their breathing filled the space, My heart hammered so loudly I thought it would alert them. But they didn't notice me, not at first. They were lost in each other. And that sight, so unfiltered, so obscene, burned itself into my memory in a single savage sear. I felt a wave of cold wash over me. Some men talk about burning rage in these moments. I had none. I just felt numb, like I was floating outside my own body, forced to bear witness. Then, in a moment that will never leave me, she turned her head. Our eyes met. She froze too, her mouth slightly open. No screams, no frantic attempt to cover up. Just that primal shock of being caught. He jerked up, trying to make sense of what was happening. And in the fleeting seconds before I moved, I saw something flicker across her expression. Something that said, "This is it." He knows. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just turned and walked out. I heard her calling my name, her footsteps stumbling after me. "Wait," she shouted, grabbing a robe, rushing into the hallway. But I was already halfway down the stairs, out the door, my pulse a drumbeat of betrayal. I don't remember starting the car, or how I got to the end of the block, but suddenly I was parked on a side street, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. That was 10 years ago. Another life. She ended up leaving with him not long after. Some nights, I'd hear them talk in hushed phone calls. I recognized his voice from that day. And then one morning, she was gone. Packed her stuff, left a note. "I'm sorry," it said. She repeated it a few times, like a child who's done something wrong but can't fix it. He was married, too, at the time. She found that hilarious, in a twisted sense. She told me, almost mockingly, "Now you're also with him." As if the three of us were locked in some bizarre triangle. Then they left together. I didn't try to stop them. What I did next, ironically, was nothing. I didn't drink myself into oblivion. I didn't break down screaming. I put on my calm voice and told my audience, "I need a couple of weeks off." Then I returned and launched a new angle on the show. Interviews with men who had been humiliated, blindsided, left behind. It felt cathartic for them, and for me. I listened to their stories as if they were confessions in church. The microphone was my confessional booth. Their pain felt raw, real, but also universal, and it gave me the weird sense that I wasn't alone. Behind the scenes, though, the revenge began. Quiet, methodical sabotage. I never told a soul. In the basement of his office building, something shorted out the wiring. A small electrical fire broke out. Nobody got hurt, but it cost him a fortune in repairs. Then a tax audit was triggered a month later, apparently random, but I had a friend with connections who could raise a red flag or two. 6 months after that, his wife filed for divorce. Everything crashed on him with suspicious timing. I just listened from a distance, maintaining my public persona of the stoic ex-husband. Inside, though, it was strangely satisfying to watch him bleed money, credibility, relationships, like peeling his life layer by layer. But I never confronted either of them directly. Not once. No shouting matches, no fiery ultimatums. I just let the pieces fall. They eventually moved away from the city, I heard. Or maybe they stayed and changed addresses. I stopped caring. My show grew and grew, while I simply existed in a shadow, dissecting other men's pain, letting them bleed their hearts out into the microphone. At night, I slept alone, listening to the hum of the air conditioner. That was my life. Then, after a decade of radio silence, no letters, no calls, not a single text, she found my number and left a voice message. "I miss you," she said. It was that simple. "I miss you." The same voice, slightly older, maybe sadder. She asked if we could meet. At first, I wanted to delete the message and pretend it never happened. But curiosity got the better of me. So I let her talk. She found out I was still in lay, still hosting the same show that was now pulling in respectable revenue. She was back in town. She said she wanted to see me face to face, said there were things she needed to apologize for. More important, she said she wanted closure. Closure. It's a word that always sounded hollow to me. Like a polite label for all the leftover regrets no one wants to face. But I agreed to meet. I set it up in a public cafe. I thought it's safer that way, less messy. She came alone, wearing a simple blouse and jeans, hair shorter than I remembered. She sat across from me, folding and unfolding her hands. I barely spoke. I just listened. She did most of the talking. Told me how her life had spiraled. The sweet romance she found with him faded fast when they both realized real life. Mortgages, finances, petty arguments wasn't solved by hotel sex. Then the basement fire and the tax issues hammered them. His wife left him, took half his money. He got depressed. She got restless. The big plans of moving somewhere new fizzled. They stuck it out, on and off, until the final blow. One day, he simply told her they were done. The next morning, he was gone, and she was alone. She apologized. She said she'd been immature, that she hadn't known how to handle the temptations in her life, how to handle her own dissatisfaction. She told me she understood if I never wanted to see her again. She admitted she felt regret. Deep regret, she said. "You were always better than me," she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. I just sat there. The bitterness in my chest felt like ice. "Better than you," I thought. "You have no idea." I said almost nothing. The barista kept glancing at us, maybe sensing the tension. Eventually, I just nodded once. She thanked me and left. I stayed behind, finishing my coffee, feeling that old emptiness swirl around in my gut. The feeling you get when you realize the past can't be undone, no matter what words are said. Apologies don't fill the void. They just highlight how deep it is. A few weeks later, she called me again. This time, her voice was different. Softer. She asked if we could meet at my place. I hesitated. But curiosity has a way of winning. I said yes. She came over in the late afternoon. I led her inside, to the living room where I record my voiceovers. The place was tidy enough, minimalistic. I noticed how she surveyed the surroundings, probably remembering where everything used to be. She took a seat on my couch. Then she patted the cushion next to her, as if inviting me closer. I sat but kept some distance. My eyes flickered to the pictures on the wall. Photos from the show, from interviews, from promotional events. None of her. All traces of our old life had been stored away or thrown out. She must have noticed the absence. "It's been a long time," she murmured, fingers picking at the seam of the couch. "Feels like another life." "It was," I said quietly. She bit her lip, nodded. Then she pivoted, trying for a smile. "You look good, Mike." I gave her a stiff shrug. "I'm alive. And the show's going well." She reached a hand over, as if to lay it on my forearm, but I pulled back slightly. She froze. Her eyes darted to mine. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable." "I don't," I said, voice calm. "Say what you need to say." She exhaled, her breath trembling. I want you to know how sorry I am. I know it's too late, but I hated who I became. I hated that I hurt you, and I can't fix it, but maybe we can talk. Maybe we can figure out a way to start over, or at least." She trailed off, unable to complete the sentence. I said nothing, letting the silence stretch. She seemed unnerved by it, eyes flickering back and forth, searching for a sign. Finally, she ventured. Could we have dinner? Just to talk. As friends." I leaned back against the couch. "Friends, Liz, that's what you want." She swallowed hard. "I don't know what I want, except a chance to make things right. Maybe not right, but better." I studied her face, remembering that day I found her with him, how her expression contorted when she saw me standing there. The memory is still vivid, sharp-edged, and in that moment I realized something. She's testing the waters. She's hoping for a second chance, or at least a way to slip back into my life. Part of me wonders if she's lonely or regrets the illusions she chased after. Another part of me, the one that spent years in the dark, wonders if there's room for pity. I let out a slow exhale. Fine. Let's order in, I say. But no promises. She nods, grateful. Her shoulders relax a bit. She rummages in her purse for a takeout menu. Thai, maybe. You still like that? I shrug again. She dials. I watch her posture, the way she tucks her hair behind an ear. She's older, yes. Wiser? I'm not so sure. But there's a raw vulnerability I haven't seen before. Or maybe I was just blind back then. Dinner arrives. We set the containers out on my small kitchen table. She opens them carefully, as if the slightest noise might shatter the fragile atmosphere. We eat mostly in silence. Occasionally, she tries to fill the gaps with small talk. Where are your parents now? She asks. In Seattle, I answer. Same house. She nods. Your brother? Same. Working in it. Has a couple of kids now. That must be nice, she says softly, swirling noodles on her fork, not looking up. I say nothing. She sighs. I'm not trying to pry. I missed hearing about your life. I glance at her. You walked away. You could have kept in touch if you wanted to. She closes her eyes. I was ashamed. We fall into silence again. Finally, she pushes her food around and sets her fork down. Look, I know it's late, and this is awkward. Maybe I should go. I measure her words. Something about them seems rehearsed, like she might be hoping I'll say, no, stay. But I just let them linger. She gathers her things in a slow, tentative way, then stands. I follow her to the door. She hesitates, turning to me. Her voice drops. I wasn't lying. I do miss you. She leans in, and before I can step back, she brushes her lips against mine. Soft, just like before, so many years ago. The scent of her shampoo hits my nostrils, and for a flicker of a second time warps. I recall our younger days, those nights under the covers, whispering about the future. It's all there, trying to surface. Then I step back. Her eyes search mine, waiting for some reaction. Anger, longing, anything. I give her none. My face remains impassive, my heartbeat steady. She seems unsettled. She wants me to grab her, to push her away, to do something violent or passionate. But all I do is look through her. It doesn't matter, I murmur. Not anymore. She stares at me, lips parted. The hush between us crackles with tension, and I see it in her eyes. Fear, because emptiness is scarier than rage. At least anger means you still care, that you can still bleed. This coldness, it terrifies her. She nods slowly, blinking back tears. Then, without another word, she leaves. I've learned one thing in my life. Not all pain is visible. The worst kinds run cold, under your skin, devouring you from within. If I once craved a loud confrontation or dramatic vengeance, I now know better. Silence can be the sharpest scalpel, and I've become a master at wielding it. 2 days later, she calls me again. Leaves a voicemail. She says she's leaving town but wants to see me one last time. Begs me to meet her at a small diner near the beach. She says there's something she needs to show me. I delete the voicemail without replying. But 3 hours later, I find myself driving. Past the Santa Monica Pier, memories swirling. I don't know what compels me. Some part of me wants to see how far she'll go, or maybe I'm curious about that final shred of closure. The diner is half empty at this hour. I spot her in a corner booth, fiddling with a glass of water. She perks up when she sees me. You came, she says, sounding almost relieved. I slide into the seat across from her. I had nothing else to do. I reply flatly. She tries to smile, but it falters. I won't keep you long. I wanted you to know I'm signing the final papers. The divorce. You never actually filed for a formal separation back then, but you could have. It was my job to see it through. Anyway, it's official now. I keep my expression neutral. Congratulations. She flinches a bit at my tone. Yeah, congratulations. She runs a thumb along the rim of the water glass. I guess that's it then. We're done, legally. I wait, letting the moment sink in. Then I say, why did you want me to come here to say that? She hesitates, eyes shining with a layer of tears she's fighting to contain. Because I wanted you to hear it from me, not from a lawyer. I wanted you to know that, despite everything, I wish it had gone differently. That maybe if we were younger, or if we talked about our issues, or if I wasn't so restless. She trails off, swallowing hard. Then she looks up at me with a kind of pleading. Say something. Please, Mike. Even if it's just to curse me out. I watch her for a long moment, the hum of the diner's fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. You want me to forgive you? I ask. Or you want me to lash out so you can feel better? Like you've paid penance. Tears finally escape her eyes. I don't even know what I want. Then there's nothing to say, I conclude. A shaky breath leaves her lips. She glances away, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. Outside, the sun is setting, turning the sky a bruise-colored purple. A server passes by, ignoring us. Eventually, she steels herself and faces me again. Take care, she manages. She reaches for her purse, pulls out an envelope, and sets it on the table between us. That's yours. Don't worry, it's not a love letter, just the official copy with my signature. I nod. All right. She stands, shoulders slumped, and for a heartbeat, I think she might try to hug me. But she doesn't. She just nods once and leaves. The door chimes behind her, the last piece of her presence clattering away. I stare at the envelope for a while. Then I pay for her untouched coffee and walk out. I would love to say that's the end of it. That I feel lighter, that the lines of tension in my shoulders loosen. But as I slip back into my car, I realize something. The pain never quite goes away. It changes shape, becomes part of you, a scar that you learn to live with. That's the real tragedy of betrayal. Once you're replaced, you're never entirely the same again. But I'm not lost. I'm not even hurting now. I just feel a deep, steady calm. I drive home in near silence, except for the faint music on the radio. News headlines come and go, but my mind is somewhere else, locked in the memory of her body entwined with another man's. And of that last moment we just shared, her tears, my indifference. Maybe that's the worst punishment she could ever endure. At home, I sit down in front of my microphone and laptop, preparing for tomorrow's show. Tonight's theme, moving on after betrayal. How fitting. I power up the recording software. My voice, low and measured, resonates in my headphones as I do a test. Check, check. Everything's good. I begin with my usual introduction for the rough cut. Welcome to The Cuckold Speaks. I'm Michael Spencer, and tonight we talk about letting go of the past, or at least learning to live with the damage. My mind drifts to the months after that day I caught them. How I never let myself get consumed by rage. Instead, I dissected my heartbreak piece by piece, studied it under a microscope, found the points of vulnerability. Then I decided what to do, my 3 steps to kill their trust in each other, quietly. Now, it's her turn to face the emptiness. And if there's any cosmic justice, he's off somewhere, nursing his own regrets too. I smile grimly into the microphone. The red recording light stares back at me like an unblinking eye. Pain isn't always visible, I say softly. Sometimes it's that slow, cold burn inside you. The question is, what do you do with it? I let the silence hang. The question is rhetorical, but I imagine my listeners leaning forward, waiting for some glimmer of wisdom. And maybe I have some to offer, but not in words. My calm is my answer. My cold, unbreakable calm that's guided me through a decade of quiet vengeance and final acceptance. I stop recording and sit back in my chair. The city lights outside my window blink, like 1,000 unanswered messages. I pick up my phone, briefly skimming the messages. None from her. Of course not. And that's for the best. We've said our parting words. Now we vanish from each other's lives. A week later, I'm in the studio for a live broadcast. The calls come in one after another, men pouring out their souls, describing that gut-wrenching moment they realized their wives or girlfriends had chosen someone else. I listen, empathize, but never mention my own story. I remain the calm voice, the facilitator. They talk about heartbreak, rage, the need for revenge. They ask how I got past it. I give them suggestions, but I never reveal the details of my own methodical punishments. That's mine to keep. After the show, I close the line. My producer, Tony, pats me on the shoulder. "Great job," he says. "Phones were blowing up." I smile politely. "Yeah, people always have a lot to say about betrayal." He studies me for a second. "You sure do," he remarks, half joking, half curious. I just shrug and start packing up my notes. By the time I get home, it's late. I flip on the lights. The living room feels empty, but not in a lonely way, more like it's finally rid of ghosts. I walk to the bedroom, pass by the old desk with my laptop. My eyes drift to a single photograph that remains, me with my parents, taken on a visit to Seattle a few years back. No wedding pictures anywhere, no sign of the life I once had with her. I stored them away or destroyed them, hard to remember which. I peel off my jacket, toss it on a chair. Then I lie down on the bed, arms folded beneath my head, staring at the ceiling. The quiet has become my companion. My phone vibrates once, a text from a friend about tomorrow's schedule, but I ignore it for now. I let my mind drift back. She left me for him. I saw them, in the flesh, tangled in my own sheets. That image is forever etched into my memory. It used to tear at me like a claw. Now, it's just a scar. Sometimes, in the darkness, I can feel the faint ache of it, but no more. It's like a phantom limb. The hand is gone, but you still feel it twitch. A month later, I get one final update from an old mutual acquaintance. She left LA for good, apparently. Headed north, maybe to her parents' home in San Francisco, or somewhere else entirely. Our divorce is official. Everything's squared away. The last shred of legal ties severed. She's not my wife. I'm not her husband. We're just two strangers who once tried to build a life. That same day, I open my mailbox and find a letter from the local law firm confirming the final settlement terms. It's all standard. No alimony claims, no property disputes. We settled those years ago, quietly, without drama. I sign the final line, walk outside, and drop the envelope into the postbox. The clang of metal is my punctuation mark to the past 10 years. My phone rings. Another business call. Another man with a sorrowful story to share on my show. I answer in my usual measured tone. "You've reached Michael Spencer. Talk to me." He starts telling me about his wife's betrayal. Something about a coworker, suspicious receipts, how he confronted her. He's on the verge of tears. The story is painfully familiar, but that's my life now. Listening, absorbing, guiding, unmasking, and maybe in some twisted sense, I'm helping them. Helping them see what heartbreak looks like, that they're not alone in the cold silence that follows. They want me to empathize, to encourage them. And I do, but in that reserved, clinical way I've perfected. Because I know the raw truth. Once you've been replaced, that wound never truly heals. You just learn to function around it. You ever get over it? This caller, older sounding, asks me late one night during a recording. The betrayal, the humiliation, the pain of being left behind. I can almost hear his shaky breathing over the line. And in a flash, I recall her voice, her tears, her kiss goodbye. I recall the first time I saw them tangled together on the bed. The cold that seeped through me then, that seeps through me now. I weigh my words carefully, because I'm not about to lie to him. But I also won't feed him any illusions. I press the button so my reply goes on air. "You don't really get over it," I say quietly. "You just learn to keep moving. And one day, It's not the first thing on your mind when you wake up, but it'll always be there, deep down. The real question is what you do with that knowledge, how you use it. He chokes out a soft laugh. Use it? For what? To understand what you can't accept and to accept what you can't understand, I answer, letting the words flow. And to remind yourself that trust is fragile. If you decide to trust again, you do it with eyes wide open. He sighs. Guess that's all we can do. Pretty much, I say. Hang in there. You'll find your own way. I click off, rubbing my temples. Another night, another session of men's confessions. Sometimes I wonder if I'm helping them or just letting them vent. Either way, it's become my calling. And ironically, it all stems from my own betrayal. A betrayal that turned me into a figure they look up to, or at least trust with their darkest secrets. Time moves on, as it does. Seasons shift. Even in sunny California, you can sense the subtle changes. My show hits a new milestone, more subscribers than ever. I sign a sponsorship deal with a major brand. Money flows steadily, and yet I keep my life simple. A modest apartment, a decent car, no extravagant indulgences. My revenge is done, my old life is gone, and all that remains is to continue forward. I do an episode on unseen pain, featuring two men whose wives betrayed them in the most callous ways. Their stories echo in my headphones, but I keep my voice steady, surgical. In the middle of the broadcast, I recall her final words to me. Now you're also with him. The twisted insinuation that we all share the same guilt once the lines of fidelity are crossed. Maybe in a sense, she was right. Some weird triangulation happened that day, but I severed it. She tried to come back, seeking absolution, or maybe comfort. I gave her none. Near the end of that episode, a caller asks me, Michael, how do you not explode with rage? Don't you just want to track them down and make them pay? I pause. My mind flickers to that basement fire, the tax audit, the quiet whispers to the right people that led to his downfall. The man lost his wife, his money, his standing. And she eventually lost him too. I never once admitted my role. But I did it with no outward fuss, no heated confrontation. Just a cold, methodical plan. Sometimes, anger is best served cold. I reply on air. And sometimes, silence does more damage than all the screaming in the world. Months pass. I watch the world turn on, day after day. I improve the show's format. Invite a few special guests. Therapists, counselors, men who overcame heartbreak to find new love. People eat it up. Sponsors line up. Everyone loves a redemption arc. But that's never really been my story. In private, I remain who I am. A man shaped by betrayal, forging a path with that quiet, surgical calm. I see the disclaimers in my own reflection sometimes. The slight lines around my eyes, the hollow ring in my voice when I talk about intimacy. But no one else notices. On camera, I can feign sincerity or sympathy easily. I guess that's my real skill set now. One evening, after a particularly draining live session, I close the studio door behind me and step outside. The nights are cooler these days, a breeze rattling the palm trees. I think about calling an old friend for a drink, but my phone remains in my pocket. Instead, I walk down the street, letting my mind wander. A wave of memories flutters past, her lips on mine, her body with his, my vow of vengeance. The next wave of memories is me, standing in the charred basement of that building, the acrid smell of smoke clinging to my clothes. Then the hush of my phone calls that triggered the audit. The memory is so crystal clear, it might have been yesterday. I wonder if she ever pieced it all together. If he did, probably not. It doesn't matter. If they suspect, they can't prove a thing. Besides, that was long ago. The seeds of that revenge have grown, borne fruit, and rotted away. There's no point in rehashing it. All I feel is a faint flicker of satisfaction, overshadowed by a deeper emptiness. 10 years of emptiness. A lifetime, in some ways. So one night, Months after her final departure, I find a small box in my closet while rummaging for something else. It's unlabeled. Opening it, I see old photos. Me in college, a younger version of her leaning on my shoulder, both of us grinning like idiots at some campus fair. My chest tightens slightly, but I can't call it pain. It's more like a phantom ache. I place the photo aside, rummage deeper. There's a pair of earrings she once wore, presumably dropped into this box during our last move. I hold them up. Tiny, delicate hoops with a swirl pattern. She loved them at the time. I slip the items back into the box and carry it out to the dumpster behind the building. It's late. No one's around. I toss the entire box in, listening to the dull thud as it lands atop the other refuse. That's where old memories belong. Trash, decaying in silence. The next day, I do a segment on The Cuckold Speaks about letting go. It's almost ironic, but it's the show's theme. Callers ask me for insight. I give them my standard line about acceptance, about finding strength in independence, about learning from the scars. Part of me feels like a hypocrite. I let go, yes, but not before exacting my pound of flesh. Would I do it again? Probably, if I'm being honest, because some pains demand retribution. Halfway through the segment, a caller says, "You sound like you're past your own heartbreak, like you don't feel it anymore." I pause, the control room silent. Then I reply in a measured tone, "I carry it differently. That's all." I can almost sense him wanting more detail, but that's all I'll give. I've learned that with heartbreak, words are cheap. The real story is in the quiet undertow that tugs at you even after a decade. The show ends, and I sign off. Weeks turn to months. Months threaten to turn into another year. My life has a rhythm. Hosting, editing, uploading. My phone is full of messages from men who want to share. Some are filming themselves crying in their cars, sending me grainy footage, hoping I'll incorporate it into an upcoming episode. The phenomenon of men publicly disclosing the shame of being cheated on has grown. I handle it with professional detachment, giving them the spotlight, letting them vent. They call me a pioneer, but deep down, I know I'm just a man who's been there. And I'm still there, in a sense. Sometimes, after a long day, I sit alone in my apartment and think about that final moment with her. The moment she returned after so many years, brushed her lips against mine, and waited for me to react. That was the second she realized how dead I was inside, how the emotional core had hardened to steel. My lack of reaction was more terrifying to her than any shouting or violent outburst could ever be, because it meant there was nothing left to salvage, nothing left that even cared to fight. And that, ironically, is the last gift she gave me. The knowledge that complete numbness can be the ultimate punishment for the one who inflicted the wound. Now, as I sit here typing out some notes for tomorrow's show, I can sense the finality of it all. The story has run its course. She's gone. He's out of the picture. I exacted my vengeance in those silent, efficient ways. And I remain. Not triumphant, not broken, just existing in the space between. Will I love again? Maybe. Or maybe not. I haven't decided if I'm capable. Some wounds heal into tough, inflexible scar tissue. A phone buzz. A friend from college. He wants to catch up, maybe watch a ball game, down a couple beers. I reply that I'm free next Tuesday. I guess that's normal life, right? You keep moving. You fill the hours with something that resembles living. And eventually, you forget to check behind you for shadows. But as I close my laptop and head toward the bedroom, I see my reflection in the hallway mirror. My face is composed, eyes steady, and I think to myself, maybe this is enough. Maybe a cold, quiet acceptance is the best I can do. After all, not every pain is visible, but it never truly disappears. It just sinks deeper, becomes part of your core, like a bullet lodged near your heart. You learn to function around it, adapt to the occasional spasm of memory. You don't rage against it. You live with it. That's my lesson. That's what I've learned. And maybe some men find hope in hearing me speak about it on the show. They call me strong, resilient. But if they could see inside, they'd realize it's not strength. It's not resilience. It's the hush of a surgeon with a scalpel who knows exactly where to cut and exactly how to stitch himself up afterward. The audience might find that frightening, but that's the truth. It's scarier than anger, scarier than heartbreak. It's the void where feeling used to be. Maybe in some distant future, a piece of me will thaw. But for now, I'm content in my calm, because as far as I'm concerned, that's the final revenge on her, on him, on everything that happened. I stand here, intact and unshaken, while they're out there, haunted by guilt or regret. And in that single, quiet knowledge, I find all the satisfaction I need. That's what I whisper into the darkness before I switch off the lights. It's nothing, right? And the darkness doesn't answer. It never does. It just wraps me up in its cold, comforting silence.